Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. MC Pei Junlai. Welcome to the closing ceremony of Grow Week. Before we start the ceremony today, let us introduce our distinguished guests. As we know, the in Sustainable Development is generous and visionary initiative from Dr. Gru Holland Brundtland. This year, we are seated with us. Please welcome Madam Gru Holland Brundtland. KU and Chair of the Organizing Committee of Grow Week, Dr. Hui Zhen Jenny Su. CEO, Dr. Zhen Chuan Chen. Associate Professor in Department of Hydraulic and Ocean Engineering, National Cheng Kung University. Assistant Professor in Department of Public Health, National Cheng Kung University, Dr. Carol Strong. Some audience are welcome to you all. One of our expectations of Grow Week award recipients is to propose new research directions which you will pursue in the future. Now, we will begin our final presentation. Each presenter has 8 minutes. At the 6-minute mark, we will sound a single bell. And at 8 minutes, we will sound 2 bells. At which point, we must ask you to bring your presentation to a close. 5 speakers have finished their presentations. The reviewers will give their comments. Now, let us give the floor to the chair of this session, President Jenny Su.
Okay, I will just officially say this is your time. Each one of you will be closely monitored for the time that you have used, because we want to bring everything all together at the end of that. Kind enough to join the entire session. We'll have her final comments after your presentation, and after that we'll see how we can launch together after our efforts of being in this program, participating in this program. So, which will comes from, okay, that's the first? Okay, good.
Good afternoon. If you may, before I begin, I'd like to say that it does not escape us for a moment to realize the immense to be awarded in the name of a globally respected and admired leader, Dr. Gru Brundtland, who is here with us today. Thank you very much, Dr. Brundtland. President Su of NCKU and Director Shen of Tang Prize Foundation, we would like to sincerely express our most sincere thanks to advance the capacity and agency for research and collaboration. So if you may, allow us to present to you, before you today, our preparation after intense brainstorming and taking into consideration the urgency of the issues, the gaps in the literature, as well as our respective areas of specialization. So we have decided finally to come up with this proposal on healthy cities in Asia and Africa, exploring community initiative, air pollution in complex urban systems. We got this today, and we paid attention to, which is very, very relevant to what we are trying to propose, that everything is linked to everything else. And indeed, if we are to talk about health, there is the clear intersections with sustainable development. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And this is a provision of the Constitution of the World Health Organization in 1946. The emphasis really is that health depends on sustaining the world as well as the quality of natural and built environments. So we are now going through an evolving framework coming from the vision of the Brundtland Report, development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We are in the context of rethinking how we are going of sustainable development. on matters of balancing those three pillars toward a conceptualization for sustainable development that places the economy and society within the Earth's life support systems. And this is very relevant, particularly in the context of cities. So this is a very quick outline. I'll present very briefly the rationale, the objectives and the research questions, our framework on healthy cities projects and air pollution, our respective project components, and we'll end with our policy implications. So cities are fast becoming the predominant context of human settlements and economic development. About half of humanity will be living in cities today, and by 2050, about 70% or 6.3 billion of the world's population will live in urban areas. And urban populations demonstrate some of the world's most prominent disparities in the cities that we represent here today. And thus, cities become a center agenda of development discourse, and that has been espoused by the WHO's Healthy Cities projects, which engages local governments in health development through a process of political commitment, institutional change, capacity building, partnership-based planning, and enabling health high on the social, economic, and political agenda of the local governments, particularly cities. And then to respond to urban disaster risks management, we have the Making Cities Resilient campaign, which was launched in May 2010. To address issues of local governance, to build disaster resilience. So we need to understand health in cities. The health of city dwellers is a domain that has proven to be particularly difficult for the development of effective interventions. The very context of cities is very unique in terms of the clusters of diseases that are concentrated in the urban areas, as well as the diversity of the illnesses and the diversity of the population that are agglomerated in the cities. So what is needed is to improve health, approach that recognize the complexity of health and cities. So why air pollution? The WHO expects poor air quality worldwide to be the leading cause of premature deaths by 2050. Yet there are recent global populist resistance which set back environmental legislation. Moreover, there is a lack of consensus or agreements on viable options for developing economies on what needs to be done to improve. Recognize that a lot of interventions has already been made in the developed world. However, those proposals are not always acceptable or relevant in the context of the developing countries. So this is the five of us. And our countries indeed have problems with the global pollution levels. India is the worst. Dr. Neha is here to speak about what she will plan to do in the case of India. So our research question and objectives. Our question really is, can we create healthy cities in low-income economies? The developing economies where the worst air quality deterioration is found. What are the practical measures on the ground? And what are country specificities that need to be considered in identifying priority action? So we work on this framework on health in cities approach. We consider two dominant approaches: the urban health approach, which emphasizes the way that the city environment, the urban health approach, which is largely oriented to diseases and at-risk population areas. So this framework, the urban health approach, has three major areas. It addresses health problems and then distribution among population. It considers sanitary environment and its impact, and considers the delivery of services in urban settings. Then there's also the healthy cities approach, which emphasizes the way that the city environment influences the health of the residents. So this approach focuses on the interactions of nature of health and its factors. And it is as a holistic approach. It assumes that everything within a community is connected, and cities therefore need to get many sectors involved in developing public health policies. But we are developing and using this framework on health and cities approach, which combines the two approaches of the urban health approach and this health cities approach. And it recognizes both the particular vulnerabilities and problems faced by a in the urban environment, and also uses the healthy cities approach, which addresses the effects that the urban environment has on all its city residents. So as a framework quickly, health in cities involves multiple groups with multiple health needs and potentially competing interests connected in a non-linear fashion to multiple urban environments, each of which interacts with the groups and individuals. And thus improving health in cities is a matter of making numerous small-scale interventions, selecting those that prove to be effective, encouraging self-organization among city dwellers, and constantly modifying approaches as the system continually changes and adapts. So this is a framework of health in cities from the perspective of complex adaptive systems. So I will present, and it will be followed by my colleagues, on the different project components of this proposal. First, on air pollution and obesogenic environments, the Tri-City analysis in the context of South Africa, solid waste and respiratory health in Kisumu, Kenya, air pollution and mental disorders in New Delhi as a utilization tool for urban city pollution indicator, and the potential human health risk estimation in Malaysia and the Philippines. Now I turn you over to my colleague from South Africa.
It is a privilege to stand before such an esteemed woman and be able to do this presentation. Thank you so much for this opportunity and this exciting week, Madam Brundtland. And to Professor Chim from Tang Foundation, a big thank you to you and the organizing committee for this. I will address a segment that looks at, does air pollution contribute to obesogenic environments? In terms of the South African context, I wanted to highlight some regarding overweight and obesity, such as in adolescents, there is a 13.1 prevalence of overweight and obesity in South Africa, while the global average remains at 6.1. This is indeed a cause for concern as we are heading towards double the global average. Very often, overweight and obesity lends blame to nutrition and physical activity decreased levels. However, air pollution has a role whereby pregnant mothers exposed to high concentration of air pollutants, the children are more likely to become overweight or obese. And these sources include car exhaust and forest fires, as well as in the South African context, where in the rural areas, people are exposed to waste removal fires. South Africa is by no means an exception to the air pollution problem. Industrialization, a rapid urbanization, poor land use planning, as well as the poverty challenges, and is ranked 30th in the world for bad air quality. However, Johannesburg, being one of the major metropolitan areas, is currently the most polluted, coming in at 99 in the world. Taking a look at the diagrams, it shows that South Africa being ranked 30th, we do not fare as badly, we may not fare as badly as India or China, but it is definitely a huge problem as annually there are over 20,000 South African deaths due to air pollution, and this cost the economy 300 million. In 2013, as can be seen from the diagram, Africa was failing reasonably well in terms of air pollution. However, as I said, in comparison to other larger countries, it may appear that we were faring well. But in terms of conditions such as asthma, tuberculosis, the stats have told us otherwise. Then in 2016, there was a huge leap, and as can be seen, South Africa then entered a dangerous phase, and that's where we saw an increase in annual deaths due to air pollution. Obesogenic environment with regards to air pollution. There is a complex interplay of interactions that come out of rising incomes, the inequalities in the global trade, and the urban design, which I've mentioned before, that all influence an increase in unhealthy consumption of energy-dense foods, as well as declines in physical activity and the burn of energy. And almost all of those who are obese live in cities. to add to this, we all know that obesity is complex and is multifactorial, including behavioral, biological, social, as well as psychological aspects. Along with diet and physical activity, air pollutants are also now being considered as obesity risk factors. I'll briefly touch on these 3 studies that support this. A study in the USA indicated that prenatal exposure to polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAH, or air pollutants was associated to childhood obesity. Again, in 2012, a study in China indicated that air pollution was positively associated with the increased likelihood of childhood overweight and obesity. The latest study in Beijing in 2016, using a rodent model, exposure to unfiltered air resulted in weight gain, cardiorespiratory, and metabolic dysfunction. So where do we go from there in the South African context? Epidemiological evidence suggests that air pollution is a risk factor for childhood obesity. Limited experimental data have shown that early life exposure to ambient particles ability to diet-induced weight gain in adulthood. However, we lack the data that is necessary and is directly supporting a link between air pollution and non-diet-induced weight increases. And therefore, there is a urgent need to gather evidence of air pollution being obesogenic in all countries affected by both air pollution and obesity and find these correlations. So it brings me to my part of the study where the objective states to gather evidence of air pollution being obesogenic, where we investigate the association between overweight and obesity in pollution in urban cities in South Africa. The study participants include adults older than 18 years of age. The study sites will be urban sites in South Africa with the 3 major cities where there are currently high levels of air pollution caused predominantly by the gas pollution, which is Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. In terms of the study design, we will look at longitudinal analysis of city-level data that we will obtain from the Departments of Health and Environment, and we are using a long-term time frame from 2008 to currently 2018. Some of the study outcomes we're hoping to achieve is the secondary BMI-Z scores, the waist circumference, and of course the secondary air pollutant data for each of these major cities. And the data analysis will include the correlation and regression. I will now hand you over to my colleague Barbara Berman, who will discuss air pollution in Kenya.
Good afternoon, Dr. Gro Butland, the Tang Prize, National Chenku University, and the wonderful people, and my privilege and my pleasure to have come all the way from Kenya to be able to attend this week. Thank you very much. And I would want to in solid waste and respiratory disease in Kisumu County. This is Kisumu. We have such a huge, you cannot see actually the whole of it. It goes to the other end and to the other end. It's been like that since I moved to Kisumu 7 years ago. At some point, it was walled off. I think so that we can stop seeing it. So solid waste has been known to lead to an increase in respiratory diseases. According to a publication that was there in 2012, they said it contributes to 9.7%. My reason for focus on Kisumu is from 2010, the Kenya government moved to a devolved system of government, such that we focus on counties, which has its advantages that it might be easier to implement some activities within a county system. So in 1995, a publication by Seaton showed that ultrafine particles were able to provoke inflammation in the lungs with release of mediators, which would lead to respiratory infections and chest infectious diseases among persons who are susceptible. This means that not everybody who lives near the dump site. Within an assessment of a landfill that was closed more than 6 years ago, children who still lived in that area had a higher chance of getting a lung disease. landfills have shown to be a risk factors of respiratory disease. And this was established in 1970, that there was a statistically significant association between air pollution and incidence of bronchitis, emphysema, pneumonia, lung cancer, other respiratory diseases, fetal deaths, and total death rate. We are in 2018. I think we are almost 50 years later. And I think from the plenary in the morning, Dr. Grobland said we all knew this information a long time ago. But it suddenly from 19 is when there was a report published by the UNEP to say that air pollutants are killing 14,000 Kenyans annually. This may be higher actually than some diseases which we are paying more attention to. And these diseases are higher amongst children. In childhood pneumonia, risk of respiratory diseases like asthma, heart disease, stroke, cancer, and other diseases. And this is a place where air monitoring is practically non-existent or done by a few bodies only. So there's a bit of information about solid waste management in Kisumu. More than 4,000 tons per day. 20% is collected, delivered to the dump site. From where I live, it's collected by a youth group once a week. 65% organic in character. Mainly affects informal settlements. It may include sanitary landfill, which is the old method that was proposed, recycling, sorting at source, minimization, and using as an economic resource. But there is some hope. Recently, I think now is about 6 months, Kenya has banned the use of plastic bags. I'm proud to be associated with more than one thing. We have athletes, now we can boast wherever we are, that even if we're from a developing economy, we only use reusable bags. This is the customs when you come to Kenya. Somewhere there on the side, I think you can see Kenya Airports Authority. And when you get to customs, before you get into Kenya, wrapped in cling film, you're given a pair of scissors. They say dump all your paper bags there. And unfortunately, I don't have a photograph taken at Mumbai Airport. When you check in at the Kenya Airways desk, there's a note saying the Kenya government does not allow plastic bags. So as the moment you're checking in, you know you're not going to go with a paper bag to Kenya. And we thought we would not survive. But even within 2 or 3 months, the markets are clean, the towns are clean, and people are no longer carrying those old paper bags. Yeah? So, sorry, this was repeated. So, what is happening? This is the mission of TB, leprosy, lung diseases, and asthma. They've proposed actually last year that they plan to focus on an integrated approach to prevent and manage respiratory diseases that have become more severe against a backdrop of environmental pollution and drug resistance. But what is happening? On the lower part of the slide, you could see the last is they are boasting of having delivered treatment in 2,000 health units and smear microscopy. In terms of treatment and diagnosis, the TB program is doing a wonderful thing. In terms of integration, well, that's for another day. They've not done anything yet. So there is information. If the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Urban Planning and Environment could speak and look at the relationship between the dump site as well as respiratory infections, I think somebody would be ready to listen. If we plan to look at the data, because cities provide a unique place where you can get data on health information over a period of time, if we put this data together, people can be able to see the importance of clearing that dump site. At the moment, the dump site is away from where most people live, so maybe it's not their problem. It's away from the hospital. The hospital is thinking of their hospital waste only, and the people in the don't think there's a relationship between that and the health in the county. So I think it's an opportunity to put these people together, to interact, to see how they can deal with this problem together, suggest different methods, some that are existing or not, and select the most appropriate and implement based on an interdisciplinary approach. So the first part of what I plan to do is to do an assessment between the particulate matter over the period of about 5 years, retrospectively, and the number of respiratory infections. The beauty of some of the data is that it's collected, including the residents of these people. So you can look at the residences of hospitals around the dump site and see the number of chest infections over time. There is also the urban planning. Plan to coordinate a meeting between the two sectors to look at the data and decide on what we intend to do. So these are the methods: review of literature in phase 1 from different departments. Part 2, to develop a concept with the relevant ministries, plan the implementing strategy, source for funding from the county government or from outside the county government, and implement. Thank you very much, my colleagues who really helped in this presentation. I'm a very health-focused person, but I was able to look beyond health. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Bretland, Professor Su, organization, for giving me the great opportunity. Thank you very much. Now I will make a short presentation on association between air pollution and mental adults. For years, air pollution have been implicated in range of health outcomes, especially the cardiovascular and the respiratory diseases. In 2015, Global Burden of Disease Survey estimated that fine particulate matters is responsible for 7.6% of all deaths worldwide. Epidemiological evidence shows an certain air pollutants and range of mental disorders like the anxiety, depression, dementia, and suicide. Now coming on to some facts and figures, the air quality of Delhi, the capital of India, according to a WHO survey of 1,600 worldwide cities, is the worst of any major city in the world. In November 2017, in an event, the air pollution spiked far beyond acceptable levels. Level of PM 2.5 and PM 10 particulate matter hit 999 micrograms per cubic meter, while the safe limits for those pollutants are 60 and 100 respectively. These are some of the pictures of the Great Delhi Smog. So there is a relative paucity of studies that measured outdoor air pollutants level with mental disorders. Hence, there is a need to study the association and to start screening interventional program. The objective of my study would be to study the association between the level of air pollutants and mental health disorders. Study design would be a cross-sectional study. Area would be Delhi. This will be a 5-year study. Study population includes adults and geriatrics, all above 18 years. And the exclusion criteria would be subjects not willing to give informed consent and those already undergoing the treatment. Sampling method will be simple random method. And the study tools includes pre-designed semi-structured questionnaire to assess socio-demographic profile. MINI, that is a structured questionnaire to diagnose mental disorders. WHO-5, which is a tool to see the well-being. Prime MD for severity rating for common mental disorders and data from Ministry of Environment. This will be the methodology, like the listing of all subjects. Then I'll assess cases as per the inclusion criteria, consent from the subjects, administer pre-designed semi-structured questionnaire including MINI, WHO-5 and Prime MD scale, and then will be the analysis. Statistical analysis will be coded, data will be coded and entered in SPSS 17, and qualitative data will be expressed in proportion, while mean and standard deviation will be calculated for quantitative data, and the suitable test of significance will be applied. So the outcome variables will be the socio-demographic factors, levels of air pollutant, common mental disorders like depression, panic disorders, somatoform disorders, anxiety, bulimia nervosa, ADHD, and autism. And the study will be conducted after clearance from Institutional Ethical Committee. Thank you.
A very good morning to, very good evening to Dr. Brutland, President Su, Director here. It's a pleasure to be here to present a proposed idea that related to healthy cities. So this is the statistics of air pollution representing for Malaysia and the Philippines, where 70% of this air pollution comes from motor vehicles. And motor vehicles here refers to car, lorries, that also contributes to massive traffic jams. Motor vehicles, as we know that road dust and vehicle exhaust are the main sources for air pollution in the cities. The movement of these vehicles can cause road dust that can be seen through our eyes. That also correlates well with quantity of vehicles and transportation. So looking at all the air pollution studies done in Malaysia and the Philippines has focused on air quality pollutant, meaning to say all these gas pollutants. This is also due to the fact that all of this data can be obtained from Department of Environment through monitoring stations that they have all over the cities. Moreover, most of these studies that focuses human health also more focused based on air pollutant, meaning to say gas pollutant, and very less studies has focused on road dust. Most of these human health information or impacts were seen through questionnaire or secondary data from monitoring station. So the objective of this study is to identify the bioaccessibility of heavy metal in urban road dust in major cities of Malaysia and the Philippines. Second is to use the data to identify the potential health risks in terms of carcinogenic and non-carcinogenic. And we would like to also investigate the relationship between the bioaccessibility of this heavy metal towards the risk of human health, and to identify some of the practical solutions that can be implemented in urban areas. So this is the methodology where road dust sampling will be done using a road sweeper with a vacuum suction in order to obtain the road dust amount that emitted through vehicles, and after that we will shift the road dust to 63 micrometer. This is because this is the grain size that can cause human health impacts. And then we will go for in vitro digestion model, as this is the presentation. It's a mimic of human digestion model in the lab to see how much of heavy metal that can be bioaccessibly available from the total. So normally from the total heavy metal or any pollutant, only certain percentage that can be transferred to human body. So these are the digestion model. And then we will look at the health risk assessment using the bioaccessibility concentration to conduct the health risk in terms of carcinogenic and non-carcinogenic. So this is the brief health risk assessment calculation where we will use bioaccessibility pollution. This is to accurately estimate the health risk. So in terms of policy implication, as everyone here knew that healthy cities are basically a process, it is not an outcome. So in looking in terms of healthy cities as a process, looking healthy cities in terms of medium and low income economics to achieve healthy cities, this definitely can be done through international collaboration that we collaborate with researchers from Taiwan that focusing on air pollution or dust pollution, and to ensure that this collaboration can build a network of female researchers that working together and be connected through these studies in urban cities. So by looking at this diagram, all the from the beginning till the end are inline and linked each another towards policy that lead towards to achieve healthy city in each of our countries, and this also includes Taiwan. Thank you.
Yeah, you have the final page.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you too. Yeah. Well, thank you, 5 of you, for a lot of efforts and work together. There's only very limited amount of time they can spend together, either discussing with other colleagues or visiting other parts of this environment and get to experience exactly what's challenging us across culture, across different geographic challenges. Doing that, and so I said, I'm going to invite 2 of my young colleagues, also women scientists from the field, to give their feedback and maybe just a few comments or their own sentiments toward your proposal before I ask Madam Bertland to do. Xiaowen goes first?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I think I just sit here. So first of all, I would like to congratulate. Yeah, because you come up with this joint proposal based on your hard work, intensive brainstorming, and like inspirations from the suite. And I think it's a very good and interesting research topic that's covering, well, the different components that each of your specialization can be contributing to this big issue. And, well, pollution is an issue of a large scale and is of its urgent importance. My first question actually is kind of like, well, echoing to the second or the first slide that you show from like Dr. Brunlin. So everything, so my first question or comment is that try to come up with the link between different components. Because this show the importance of the 4 topics, which I totally admire and agree, but try to find effect relationship with each other and how one lesson learned from one case study can contribute to the others. I think that will really make the proposal as a joint efforts that can benefit from each other. Thought is that, as we said that, well, air pollution is for sure a large-scale problem issue, but why you focus on urban areas? Why not tackling or addressing the rural problems? Areas will be the areas suffering from, well, yeah, the issues, the problems from the city areas. So try to think a little bit broader, try to cover like the different regions to make this a real kind of large-scale issue. You propose like your objectives, methodologies toward each component. So I really would like to see some kind of like a solid, concrete kind of like expectation. For example, like by how many years, like which steps down, and how like the joint efforts can really inform the policy, for example, and also how these results will reflect your title, which is exploring. So try to think about that and try to make this a real joint kind of like effort. Thank you.
Okay, great. No need to respond at this moment because it's a proposal to be taking place as soon. Okay, let me have.
Hi, I'm very honored to join this discussion today, and I really appreciate this chance to see all of your work, and it's amazing given such a short notice. And so first of all, I do think that you guys tackle very important basically, you guys choose a few important environmental hazards and look at the impact on health and diseases. And it's kind of interesting. I know that because of your original interest, that's priorities, but then it's also kind of my question, like why do you specifically choose obesity, respiratory disease instead of others? And another thing I want to mention is you guys mentioned community initiatives. So like the whole time I was looking forward to hear like how are you going to do this with this kind of topic? And I keep picturing how I would do it in this situation. So slide you guys talk about policy implications. So I will hope that if you guys can talk about how you can involve community in terms of policy implications. And thirdly, in terms of measurement is probably the most challenging part in terms of this proposal. And I do praise the effort and the bravery to tackle this issue, because I know some researchers, especially, a lot of work related to this, and we're lucky in Taiwan to have a universal health insurance that everyone's covered, and as a research database that we have a solid outcome measure. So I think it would, you guys might look for similar stuff in your countries that could be used as a measurement. Thank you, and great work, really.
So finally, but definitely not the least, big warm welcome to Madam feedback.
Okay.
Do you want to sit here or you want to be in front, in any place?
No, I'll sit here.
Okay.
I'll sit here. Like you all did. Well, I mean, all the commentators. You know, this is quite complicated to make intelligent remarks after having seen this. These two are the experts, these two young professors. So I noticed what you said. First of all, try to connect elements. This was Professor Wang saying. And of course, that is because everything, yes, but in a research kind of setting, this is not simple to combine results linked to obesity and other place linked to mental health. So obviously, I agree, you know, they should certainly it from that perspective, through that lens. So this is good. Then when you asked about why not rural areas, it's a practical one, the limit of the possibilities of choosing the arena and the added complexity, urban and rural, involved. Yes, and then Professor, is it Strong, no? Yes, yes. Strong, well, not easier, you know, everybody is called Sung here, so yeah, Strong. Yeah, so you asked, why do you know what? So, it is obviously to be found in the background of the different research women here. What have they known from before and what has interested them and so on. So the question, I think you indicated, this may be the reason. Of course, pollution and respiratory illness is already shown in so many studies. So it will be interesting to see whether you do find to obesity or to mental illness. Certainly, I don't know of studies of any size that have, you know, proven this or shown this in a good way. It makes it, of course, interesting that you are delving into new kinds of areas. But now, before we have an award ceremony, at this moment, you know, I want to thank everybody, all of you, for having, well, made your applications to be able to get this and awards and to come here to Taiwan and to meet each other. And of course, you will all be having contact in the years to come, I'm sure. This happens, which is one of the. And of course, to thank, you know, the whole Tang Prize Foundation and all their excellent work in the 3 and more years since. And we discussed whether we could make an arrangement like the one you are part of to benefit women researchers, which was, you know, who are linked to development. And of course, the Tang Prize Foundation has followed up and with the university here involved in such a way that 3 years become a success story. So I'm grateful that this has happened and to everyone that have contributed. And of course, I wish all of you the very best in your future years, but also in your family lives and your future children and everything which is part of a full life for any woman. Thank you so much.
Please give one more round of applause for these 5 spectacular presentations. And now, let us quickly enjoy the slideshow of the whole week in a few minutes. And now, let us welcome the President of NCKU, the Organizing Committee of Global Berlin Week, Dr. Huijin Su, for a few words.
Okay, National Week of Women Scientists in Sustainable Development, let me begin by extending my most heartfelt appreciations to the 5 young, splendid participation and commitment to join us in Taiwan during the past week. Your support best depicts the value of the topic and urging together the international community across culture and geographic borders. As the organizing committee member, I'm pleased to highlight of this Science Week, celebrating Madame Groh-Bredlin's lifelong accomplishments in public health and sustainable development. Over the past 3 years, by nearly 2,000 people in the audience, as the program took places in different regions of the country, including the Far East, part of the Taiwan. In particular, has been a high percentage of the attendees who were high school students, and the connection to the next generation is successful launch in this particular Berlin week. I'm also hopeful and motivated when we officially close the week-long activity as what you have presented, which are diverse disciplines and carrying the ultimate spirit of sustainability. I know wholeheartedly that as you depart from NCKU today, the network and capacity development is seated in another corner of the globe. Once again, I would like to thank all the plenary and session speakers, without which the program would not have turned out to be such a positive and fruitful experiences. Also to my colleague committee members in Nation, Tsinghua University in Hualien, also Zhongxin University in Taichung, and above all, Town Prize Foundation, all the dear colleagues, thank you. Those supported partners that any organizer can ever have. Above all, I may also ask you to recognize and acknowledge the staff and my students that have been most considerate, effective, and professional in making this event possible. Taiwan as a country, and me as a faculty to them, the best and next batch of capable cadets, as Dr. Berlin mentioned, we raise our torch for the future. I thank you once more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Su. Supporting from Town Prize Foundation, the Global Berlin Week would now be successful. Please welcome the CEO of the Town Prize Foundation, Jim Chanturn, to say a few words.
Dr. and Mr. Brutland, President Su, and 5 outstanding awardees. On behalf of the founder of the Town Prize, Dr. Yin, I would like to express my sincere appreciations to Dr. Brutland, a long way to Taiwan to show her care and support for the younger generation. She used her Town Prize research to come under the same roof for a good cause. As Dr. Brutland said, partnership will be crucial to deal with to promote the green economy. The award and the week-long events here have given young scientists many opportunities to meet their peers and the distinguished fellows in the field of public health and sustainability. I hope everyone take home with them useful information and on the top of that, fond memories of the week. Our thanks also extend to Dr. Su University and the hard work of her colleagues who arranged these wonderful programs in past years. This is the last award and the Week of Women in Sustainable Development. The event drew to an end and we bid farewell today. as the name suggests, remains a lifelong mission of us. More contacts and cooperations are expected in the future. Thanks to participation in no one but our collective voice and power, positive changes are taking place. I wish you all have a successful career in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Scientists have participated in a week of discussion and exchange. Today, they have given us a glimpse into their outstanding work, and now let us welcome Dr. Bruland and President Su to the stage to award these 5 scientists for their outstanding work. Dr. Bruland, President Su. As I call each name, please come to the stage, where you will be presented with a certificate and a gift. Please remain on stage for a picture with Dr. Bruland and President Su before returning to your seat. First, let's welcome from Kenya.
Congratulations. This certificate that you deserve. And Professor Chen and I will join. Especially great.
Thank you. Next, let's from South Africa. Thank you. Next, let's welcome Nehar Dahiya from India. Thank you. Next, let's welcome Wina Hera from Philippines.
Congratulations. You deserve it all, don't you? And you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, let's welcome Seluva Menggala Pravina from Malaysia.
And congratulations. You deserve a certificate from this. Thank you. Yes, we'll come. You do have one too.
Now we invite all 5 recipients to the stage for a group photo.
小文到陈老师那边。好，来，你们进来没关系。你到陈老师那边，要不要？Do we have all？ 小虫大家都在里头吗？好。好，我们过来一点。
Group Building Week 2018 has come to a successful end. Thank you all for your hard work and your outstanding presentations. I hope you come away from this week much richer in knowledge and perspective.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.